The core. Questions so far. Every estate we studied answered one question. Who owns the property? Now everything shifts. With leasehold estates, the question changes to who has the right to use the property temporarily? That's the whole pivot. Freehold is about ownership. Leasehold is about temporary use. Keep that contrast in your head, and this entire unit becomes easy. What is a leasehold? Here's the heart of it. In a leasehold estate, you do not own the property. What you get instead is three things: possession, use, and occupancy. But only for a limited time. The perfect picture: a hotel room. You control it, you possess it, you use it, but you don't own it. A lease is simply a long-term version of that same idea. The two parties. Every lease has two parties, and the names trip people up. First, the lessor, that's the property owner, the landlord. Second, the lessee, that's the tenant, the person renting. Here's an easy way to keep them straight. The lessor is the own ER, and the lessee is the rent EE. Owner versus renter. Chattel Real. Now here's a favorite exam concept. A leasehold estate is legally considered personal property, not real property. The term your notes use is Chattel Real. It sounds strange because it sits halfway between the two. So simplify it like this. The building itself is real estate, but the lease agreement is treated as personal property. Remember that split? It shows up on exams. The four types. There are four types of leasehold estates, and this is the part you simply have to memorize. Think of them as four different ways a tenancy can exist. 1. The estate for years. 2. The periodic estate. 3. The estate at will. And 4. The estate at sufferance. Don't worry, I'll break each one down, but lock in those four names first. Estate for years. First type, the estate for years, also called a term tenancy. Its defining feature: a specific start date and a specific end date. For example, January 1st to December 31st. Now here's the trick everyone misses. An estate for years does not have to be years. It could be 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. The word years is misleading. The real rule is simply a fixed ending date. And because everyone already knows when it ends, no notice is required. Ending it early? So how does an estate for years end early? Generally, a party cannot terminate early unless the contract allows it, a breach occurred, or both parties agree. That last one has a name: surrender. Surrender is when the landlord and tenant both agree to end the lease early. Think of it as a mutual cancellation. And one more term: assignment. A lease can usually be assigned unless it's prohibited, which simply means the tenant transfers their lease rights to another person. Periodic estate type 2. The periodic estate. This is the most common rental you'll ever meet. Its defining feature: there's no final ending date. It automatically renews. Month to month, week to week, year to year. Picture it: month flows into month, continuing indefinitely until someone gives proper notice. The one concept to remember here is automatic renewal. Just cause WA law. Here's an important modern wrinkle. Historically, a landlord could often end a month-to-month tenancy just by giving notice. But Washington now has stronger tenant protections. For residential tenancies, landlords generally need a legally recognized reason called just cause in many situations. Just cause simply means a valid legal reason. Examples include serious lease violations, non-payment of rent, major property damage, the owner moving in, or a demolition or substantial remodel. Estate at will type 3, the estate at will. This is where students get confused, so go slow with me. There's no fixed term, and it can be terminated at any time, usually by either party. Why does it exist? Often there's a special relationship. Picture a caretaker who lives on the property and, instead of paying rent, maintains it. The memory trick. Estate at will means stay as long as we both want. The moment one side says no more, it ends. And because it depends on a personal relationship, an estate at will cannot be assigned. Estate at sufferance type 4, the estate at sufferance. Students find this one funny because nobody creates it on purpose. The definition: a tenant remains after the lease is expired. The lease ends June 30th. The tenant stays July 1st, and now you've got an estate at sufferance. The key vocabulary word is holdover tenant. Someone who stays after their legal possession has ended. Unlike the other three, this isn't a real lease made by agreement. It only exists because the tenant refuses or fails to leave. The lease expires. The tenant says, "I'm staying." And the landlord says, "You don't have permission." That's sufferance. The one question. Let me leave you with the trick that makes this whole chapter click. If I were teaching this in a classroom, I'd reduce all 4 leasehold estates to a single question. When does the tenant's right to stay end? Estate for years. On a specific date. Periodic estate. When notice is given. Estate at will. Whenever either side ends it. Estate at sufferance. It already ended, but the tenant stayed anyway. That one question organizes the entire subject.